Okay, when we play the game right now, the stats for our game, they're just displayed over here in the shell. And what I want to do is, let me turn that sound off for the lower for this. What I want to do is get these statistics to actually show up on the game window itself instead of out here. So what we need to do is learn how to load fonts and then get text drawn on the screen. So, all right, let's start by loading a font, and I'm just going to have one default font that I use for all the text that goes on the screen in this game. I'll just call it default font equals, and this is not a memorized one. I have to look this up every time. It's pygame dot font with lowercase f dot font with capital F, and I could specify a specific font that I have saved somewhere on my computer, but I am not going to right now. I'm just going to say none, and this is going to let Pygame just default to whatever it wants to do. So I'm on a Windows computer, it'll probably just pick Arial or something like that. And then I'm going to pick the font size, and I'm going to make my font size 40 pixels high. All right, so this is how you load a font. And I'm just going to do this to make sure that, yeah, okay, no errors, which means I did type this line in correctly. And now I want to go into the drawing code and start putting some numbers on the screen. So, all right, I'm kind of tempted just to do a whole bunch of drawing code right here, but by the time I draw all of the statistics on the screen, it might take me 10, 12 lines of code to get that done. So instead, what I'm going to do is make a function called, and I'll just do it after start level and before the game loop. This is where I've got my functions. And I'm going to say display stats. And I'll just pass for now. And then I can go down into my drawing code, and I'll just make a call to display stats right there. And I'll do that last. That way the stats get drawn over the top of everything else. If there's any ships or whatever, they go over the numbers. Okay. So obviously nothing's showing up yet. I'm just running it real quick to test for errors. And so let's go in the display stats function, and let's start to put some numbers on the screen. So, right, in Python or in Pygame, we've got a couple steps to get text on the screen. The first one is we have to render it. So I'm going to make the first thing let's put on the screen is our score. So the score text is going to be, and it's, let's say I look this up. It's going to be default font. And this is not a built Pygame word. That's just what I chose to call it up here. So if you called your font something else, then you would change that. So it's going to be default font, and you're going to do the text that you want to put on the screen. So in this case, it's going to be player.score. I'm making a mistake here on purpose just to show you the error, and then we'll fix it. And I'm going to put true, and I'll show you what happens when we flip that to false. And then last we have to do a color. So I'm going to pick white, and just let me double check. Yes, I did define a white already. Okay, so I think that was in the template. Right, and then the next thing we got to do is get the text on the screen. So now we're going to say, the surface we're drawing on, which is the screen, lit, and I'm going to say score text, and then we'll just say where we want to put it. And I'm just going to put it 20 pixels over from the top and 20 pixels down. So this is going to put it just off of the top left corner of the screen. And so let's run this first so we can see the error message and fix that. And it says, okay, it doesn't like this line right here, and the font object is not callable. I did miss something in there. It's default font dot render. Now it says that the text must be Unicode or bytes, and basically what they're telling us is the player score is a number, and it wants a string there. So what I'm going to do is just wrap this in a string function. We get the font we're using, dot render, and then we turn it to if it's a number, we have to turn it to a string, and there we go. And so I'm going to shoot stuff on the screen, and let's make sure this is working. Okay. So that's good. So let's do the same thing with the level. We'll just copy that. And how about level text? And this time it's player.level. And I don't want these things drawn right on top of each other, so I'll just nudge this down a little bit, and I'm going to put it at 50. Actually, I'll put it at 60. And let's see how this works. There we get the level, and let me clear out a level and just make sure it works. And seems to be working well. Okay. So one thing that I don't really like here is these things aren't positioned all that great. So let's suppose I wanted the score text where it is, but I want the level text on the other side of the screen. And so positioning by the top, what this is doing right now is positioning by the top left-hand corner of the rectangle that surrounds the text. And I think it's going to be a little bit easier if we use rectangles to position the text. So what I'm going to do here is add an intermediate line. And it's going to be the score rectangle. And it's going to be, actually, we'll just use this. Yeah, now I'll do score rectangle. And it's going to be, we'll just do score text get underscore rect. And that's a function, put some parentheses. And what I can do now is position this rectangle by any of its edges. So I'm just going to say score rect dot top equals 20. And I'll say score rect dot left equals 20. And I can replace this with score rect. And with the level text, we'll kind of copy that. We'll change that to, actually, you know what? I don't even need that. We're just going to use the same variables over again. And these are throwaways anyway. So we'll copy that and get the rectangle and change that to a rectangle. And the rectangle. Okay, so right now I think they're drawn on top of each other. Yeah, so that's messy. But for the level text rectangle, I still want the top to be 20, only this time I want the right. And I don't want it to be 20. What I want it to be is the screen width minus 20. So I want the right side of the level text to be 20 pixels off of the right edge of the screen, which is going to be the width minus 20. And now I've got my numbers positioned a little bit more nicely. Okay. Let's see. You know what? I can't tell what these numbers are. So I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to make a little string so I can tell what these numbers are. And here I'll just put level colon plus. And let's see if that works. Yeah, that's better. Now we can identify what the numbers are. Okay, everything seems to be working. We have one more stat in our game, and that's the shield. And so we want to get that on the screen somewhere. I'm going to go ahead and put the shield in the bottom left-hand corner. So we will copy this block again, and I'll make shield text and change that to shield. And this time we got to think about where the shield variable is stored, and it's not. See, yeah, the shield is not a player attribute. The shield is actually an attribute of the ship right here. So, yeah, so the shield is actually an attribute of the ship we make at the beginning of the game. So here I'm going to say ship.shield. And where do I want to put it? Let's see. This time I want to go by I want the the bottom of the text to be at the height minus 20. Let me spell it right. And I want the left side to be at just 20 because I want it to be almost flush to the left edge of the screen. And so this is going to be shield text. Don't forget to change that. And now I've got my shield in the bottom of the screen, and hey, I'm even lucky that I have everything positioned so my ship doesn't run over the text yet. And let's get hit, and that seems to be working. So everything's good. The only other thing I want to do is let's quit printing the numbers over on the side. That's kind of distracting. So these were just temporary lines anyway. So in the start level function, I'm going to get rid of the printing of the level. In the, let's see. Yeah, in the enemy class, there's a part where I printed the player score, and we'll get rid of that. And so I think we should be done now. So let's see. Get hit by something. The shield stat works. Final check. The score text works, and yes, the level did increment. So looks like everything is working well.